All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be welcoming on an individual who's got quite a big fight going at BKFC 30, and that transpires on October the 1st. Ben Rothwell making his BKFC debut, taking on Bobo O'Bannon, and always good getting to talk to Bobo ahead of these big fights. How's your day going so far there, man?
Oh man, blessed. I get off my 10-hour shift at work, and we've got a little gym. Our work has a gym that the employees have access to, and went to the gym and did my training for the day there. Then me and Coach go again in the morning when I wake up. Then I go and spar tomorrow evening. Just living the life of a full-time employee that happens to fight on the side.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes I don't know how you get in the time, but it seems like just how grateful you are. Like you mentioned, you feel like you're very blessed and everything like that. Like it seems like you have a very positive mindset with all the things you have on the go. Like it doesn't seem to wear you down. Like does the positive mindset have that kind of utility for you? You think?
Oh yeah, man, most definitely, without a doubt. So this is the way the positive mindset works for anybody that might be wondering. The reason why people have a positive mindset and see things like they're just absolutely the best in the world, the best they could possibly be, is because when you look at things that way, they may turn out to be okay. And you start off looking at your day like it's going to be the best day ever. It may end up just being an okay day. But if you start off looking at your day like, it's going to be an okay day, by the end of the day, man, it might deteriorate to be a bad day. So you got to always look at it to be much better than what you think it's going to be. And, it comes down, you never wake up and say, man, I'm going to have a great day. And it's rare that you actually do have a great day. But looking at it with that mindset, the aspect that things are going to be good, you start looking at the good even in the bad days.
Yeah, I love that attitude. It just always kind of makes me laugh. Like on the rare occasions there's been where fighters have called you out or tried to talk trash. You just seem like such a kind soul. Like it strikes me as a difficult person to talk trash to. It just cracks me up.
Yeah, man, it is funny when a joker wants to talk trash to me. I'm like, okay, bud, that's what we're gonna do. I mean, I don't mind it. I don't care. Some people gotta talk trash to get themselves worked up into the fight. So I'll sit over here and smile and, make my cute little faces at them or whatever. I don't have to talk trash, man. It's just like, I used to play a lot of tournament slow pitch softball. And I didn't never have to be mad at the other team to want to beat them. It comes natural to want to win, to want to beat them. We don't have to talk trash and hate each other and be mean to each other. And fighting is the same way. Just like with playing Monopoly with your family. I don't have to tell my mama she's a, piece of garbage to want to beat her in Monopoly. I want to win the game, no doubt. That's the understanding going into it.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a very intriguing fight. This was one that a lot of people were really calling for. I felt like a lot of bare knuckle fans were rallying behind you as the person who would take on Ben Rothwell in his, debut effort in the ring there and everything. What was your reaction when you got this bout offer there? It seems like one that a lot of the fans and yourself included were quite intrigued by.
Oh yeah, man, most definitely. For me personally, man, I know this is going to sound crazy and maybe a little, whatever, cliche or whatever you want to say, but sincerely speaking, I truly am all about what the fans want. For me, it truly is all about the fans. Because let's be honest, if it wasn't for the fans, if it wasn't for all them people that pay the pay-per-views to watch the fights, all the people that come out and buy the tickets and get in the seats, there would be none of us up there in that ring. So I had a few people, 20, 30 people send me messages, hey man, you heard Rothwell just signed, you ought to get that, you ought to try for that. So I just, me being the person I am, just politely made a little, hey, I'd like to welcome him, to the square circle. I'd like to welcome him to the bare knuckle world. And lo and behold, it came to fruition there.
Yeah, it's an intriguing fight for sure. I mean, he's obviously got a resume from like UFC and like IFL before that, etc. But I mean, I feel like you're a person. He's very much jumping into the deep end with. It seems like he's really trying to test his acumen in a new combat sport. So yeah, very intriguing fight in a lot of regards.
Yeah, man, Ben strikes me, I'm not saying I know much about him or I know him greatly or anything like that, but what little bit I do have seen on him, what little bit I have been able to find on interviews and all of them or whatever, or what little bit I have watched, there's tons to find. I just, what little bit I've taken the time to watch. He seems like a pretty humble fella, and he seems a lot like me in the aspect of, if he's going to do something, then he wants to be good at it. He doesn't just want to do it. He doesn't just want to come in and fight a few fights to say that he fought bare knuckle. He wants to excel in it and be good at it. And just being honest about it, I'm not I wouldn't say right now a title contender or anything like that. I just lost Belcher. But, so, I mean, I'm not exactly a title contention kind of guy right now, but I am the guy that it seems to be, you got to beat me to get there. And, with him coming in and accepting the fight with me, asking for the fight with me, it shows that he's definitely wanting to get there, definitely wanting to see, if he's got what it takes to be in there, with the champion, get the title shot.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and you briefly mentioned the Belcher fight there. Like, obviously, that didn't necessarily pan out how I imagine you would have wanted it to. But were there any takeaways, like any learning moments from that one there for you at all?
Yes, tons. The main one being listening to my team, listening to my wife, listening to my coach. I tested positive for COVID 12 days before the fight. I started having symptoms about 15 days before the fight. And the last 2 weeks before the fight is our build-up week. That's where we just go flat out. I mean, just training hard, doing all the hard stuff, the stuff that makes you hate fighting. And during them 2 weeks, I'd be training with coach. My trainer is Jason Williams. He lives in Wales over in the UK. And we'll be training online on FaceTime. And I'd be training 10 minutes into it. I'd have to hang up on him and run inside and go use the bathroom. And come back out there. We'd get started back up 15 minutes later, same thing. I'd have to stop and go use the bathroom or stop and go throw up for a second. And they were begging me to pull out of the fight, begging me to call somebody and let somebody know what was going on with me and, just don't fight. And, I'm hard-headed. I'm part Hispanic, and I think the only part I got out of it was the doggone thick hair and hard head. And, there was no telling me to not to. Once I get my mind set to something, I'm going all in with it, and that's what I did. And I was throwing good punches. I was, winning the fight, winning the round, and doing what I needed to do. Then all of a sudden, I coughed up a little big COVID loogie and went to choking on it. Didn't want to spit it out on pay-per-view television in front of the world, And so I went trying to swallow it down and couldn't breathe for about 5 or 6 seconds. I don't know if you know or not, but in the ring, in the middle of the fight, 5 or 6 seconds is what you call an eternity. And I went that long without a breath of air trying to choke that thing down, and you can see it. The very last punch I threw, I leaned all the way in with it. I brought my body all the way in with it, which was something that I had not been doing for the first part of that round up until that point. And all it took was me doing it that one time, and Belcher did that sidestep and right hand to the ear, and it was over with.
Have you since found, how long, I guess, did it take, following that fight for that to clear up? It sounds like the congestion was, a big thing from the COVID. How did that all kind of shake out? When did that start, really clearing up for you and everything like that? Hopefully that wasn't a part of, this training camp.
No, not a part of this training camp at all. As a matter of fact, Coach kept telling me, I told you, mate, for about, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that fight while we were training. I had to stop and go coughing. And finally, after I think it was, it finally cleared up to where I'd still cough, but I wouldn't have to stop to go, spit or throw up or anything anymore. And he kept telling me, mate, I told you, we should not have had that fight. I was like, I know, Coach, but I'd done already signed the contract. And, me, I'm the kind of person, man, as people, we're only as good as what our word is. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I don't care what it is. If I said I'm going to do it, now I've obligated myself to do it. If I don't do whatever it is that I said I was going to do, I'm no good at that point. You're only as good as what your word is.
Yeah, I get why you would look at it in that sort of fashion there, following through on the, commitment and everything. But good to hear things have cleared up ahead of, this fight here. Was that Coach Johnny that was kind of, giving you the business there? He seems like a guy that's been a part of the picture for a while.
No. That was Coach Jason Williams with Boxer Tricks out of Wales. He lives in the United Kingdom, Wales. We trained via FaceTime. He's cornered me via FaceTime for the for Zach Kalmus, Lewis Rumsey, and Alan Belcher. You can hear his family and everything in the background. The television's about 35 to 40 seconds slower than what the FaceTime is. And so you can hear Coach react to a punch that I land or something I do good. And then, like I say, 35, 40 seconds later, you can hear everybody in the living room react to the same thing.
Yeah, what has he brought to your game? Like you were saying, within the last few fights, he's been cornering you via FaceTime and stuff like that. Was he someone you've been working with since the Arnold Adams fight there? Like, how has that relationship informed your overall game?
Yes, actually, it was right after the Adams fight that me and Coach reached out to me before the Adams fight, just kind of, just shooting the breeze, just kind of talking, chit-chatting, whatever you want to call it. And then after the Adams fight, I posted a status talking about needing to find somewhere to train, a boxing place to train, because my trainer lives in Theodore, which is an hour and 10 minutes one-way drive from where I live, and working the 10, 12, 16-hour days I work is just not feasible for me to drive, an hour and 15 minutes one way, train for an hour and 15 minutes back home. That'd leave me with just a couple hours of sleep a night. It just didn't make sense. Wasn't a way to work it out. But then Coach, he told me, he said, hey, man, I've seen your status about, wanting someone to train. He said, I've been training people online. And my first thought was, yeah, online. I hear you, bud. We're not going to do that. And I just instantly thought, man, what kind of idiot would come to a professional fighter with, hey, let your only coach that you have be online? Like, it just blew me away that he would even suggest it. So I went to typing him a message, just letting him know right how I felt about it. And then I got a feeling, and I stopped, and I prayed about it for a minute, and I was like, oh, I got calm after I prayed about it. I said, okay, Lord. I said, but I'm going to talk to my wife about it. If this is what it is, then deal with her too. So I told looked over to her, and I told her about the message and what he was saying, and the history of him messaging me, and he just offered to train me on FaceTime. And she said, well, let's pray about it. So we stopped and together held hands right there and prayed about it. And we got done praying, and she looked at me. She said, what do you think? I said, I'm not telling you. What do you think? She said, I think you've got your answer, and you need to give the man a shot. Yes, ma'am. Before the Adams fight, I was looking at the way I was throwing my jab and looking at a different way that I felt like would be better to throw my jab. I just couldn't figure out how to make it land correctly. I get in the gym with Coach on FaceTime. Our very first time in the gym, 10 minutes after stretching a little bit, he tells me to go in the bag. He just wants to see me have a go at the bag. And so I go in and hitting the bag. And he stops me. The very first thing he wants to address is my jab. And the way that he tells me to throw it is exactly the way I was trying to throw it before the Adams fight. I just couldn't figure way that I was thinking was going to be better to throw it anyways. And that right there let me know. I was like, all right, it's something I spent 45 minutes in the gym. Some big idiot in the gym by himself trying to figure out how to throw this jab a way that ain't working. And coach sits there and fixes it for me in all of about 45 seconds. Just the way that I was trying to do it. I was like, all right, well, that's all I needed to know right there. Felt like the good Lord was telling me something there. So we went with it. We started training. We were 4.5 weeks into training together, and I get a phone call on Monday morning at 9:30 while I'm at work, wanting to know, hey, we need somebody to fight this Friday night in Birmingham. Will you come up here and fight this guy? I didn't know anything about Zach Calmus at the time. Didn't know who he was, nothing. Couldn't find any film on him, nothing. And I found his professional boxing record, but that was it. Zero film anywhere. Get home, talk to my wife, talk to Coach, and Coach was, oh man, he was nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I'm telling you, he didn't like the idea at all. He didn't feel like we had near about enough time working together. I said, Coach, you've taught me a lot, and I'm satisfied with what I know. And I said, I'm on my way to the gym. He said, no, you're not, mate. He said, we didn't get a build-up week. He said, but we'll do nothing till fight night. Yes, sir. So that's what we did, and we went in there, and we put up fight of the night. Zach and I put up fight of the night. And I credit that to Coach, because teaching me, man, my punches was way better that fight. My combinations were rolling. Everything just seemed to gel and roll way together. You could tell that there was a massive, massive change in me. Even from whenever my last win, which was Mike Kyle. I beat Mike Kyle. I looked way better. My performance, the way I was moving and angles and punching, it all looked way better against Calmus because it was better. You could definitely see the improvement that Coach had made in me in just a 4.5 week time period.
Yeah, that was such an exciting fight for sure, and I mean a very well regarded opponent too. Like I'm getting ready to interview Zach Calmus tomorrow actually, and I was doing some backgrounding on his amateur boxing background, and yeah, I mean definitely like a higher level kind of guy. Like I saw he was ranked among like the top 15 like U.S. heavyweights at a time when Richard Torres was really plying his trade before he became like an Olympic silver medalist. So yeah, definitely a polished guy.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And I did not know. I didn't know anything about this cat. I didn't know anything about him. I get to the hotel and I looked him up and I'd seen pictures of him and knew what he looked like or whatever. I was like, okay, well, let's see what happens. And I walk into the hotel lobby. All the fighters hang out in the lobby before the fight, and there he was. And made eye contact with me as soon as I walked in. Man, his face lit up, and he comes straight over to me. I was like, doggone, this joker's gonna come talk to me. I hope he's not ugly. I hope he's not mean. I hope he's a nice guy. Sure enough, man, he's just a nice dude, humble acting. He is a humble guy, and just talking to me, man. I've been watching your fights on YouTube for years, and I was like, man, that's awesome, man. Just very, very kind and cordial and polite, and every other positive word you want to put in there. He was awesome, man. And I was like, dang, I hate me and this guy's gonna have to punch each other in the face here tomorrow night.
Well, that makes me happy to hear, man. That's awesome that like both of you guys have such kind kind of demeanors and you were able to throw down like that. But something I wanted to touch on from like the last time we were talking, because you were saying like with your boy it's almost like scary how much he's learning about just fighting in general, bare knuckle specifically. It seems like he's been doing some interviews as of late, which I thought was a cool sight to see. Like, how does that all make you feel? It looks like he's coming into his own in that regard.
Man, look, that makes me extremely, extremely proud. Now, not because he's taking interest in something I have interest in, or not because he's kind of in a roundabout way doing something I'm doing. None of that garbage. The reason why that makes, because Carter is a shy kid. He's been a ever since I've been in the picture, he's been a very, very shy, very, very reserved kid. And to see him come out of his shell and light up and come alive while he's doing the research and homework on these fighters, and then especially once he's in the middle of the interview with them and see how positively everybody reacts to him and see how everybody's happy to do his interviews, and dude, it's awesome, man. It is awesome watching him. Like I say, he just comes alive like a little light bulb, and he doesn't carry a notepad or anything with him when he does his interviews. But what he does and I don't understand why, because he does tons of homework on these fighters. Dude, he's asking these fighters questions that I didn't even know was a question to ask them. I didn't even know that was a subject that I could have asked them about. Didn't know they had any regard there. And he's all in. I'm like, man, that's my boy right there. That's my dude. He's all about it, man. He seems to be pretty good at it. I'm very, very proud of him.
Yeah, I love that level of insight, man, because obviously, like you explained, you get to see it on every level, just like the research and seeing how excited it gets him and just like coming out of his shell and everything like that. So, yeah, you got me smiling ear to ear, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. I'm saying, look, he is a very, very timid, mild-mannered kid. He's the one, sincere. I'm not just saying just because he's my boy, but he's the one that's parents, the kind of kid that parents want their kids to hang around with, because he's very well mannered, he's very respectful. He gets a little rambunctious sometimes, but you tell him, hey, that's enough, bud, and he yes sir, and he calms right on down. He knows when it's time to chill out. But he's one of them, I guess, all-American style kids, and I'll brag on him all day long. I love that boy to death, and I'm super, super proud of him, man. Really am.
Yeah, well, that's awesome to hear, and it really comes across, man. And I mean, I really, appreciate that and the insights you gave there and stuff like that. I'm kind of wondering with the baby girl, though, she's still thinking you're going to be wrestling in the ring with your friends when you get ready for this fight coming up?
Yes. She that kind of got thrown out the window. She was at somebody's house. I don't remember who, but they was watching Dad fight on TV, and so what they had to do is they had to tell her that I was playing with my friends. Me and my friends, we like to play rough, so we were just playing, and that's what we do, is we fight to entertain people. But we're just playing, and we're not mad at each other, and we're not being serious. And they even had to let her watch the whole fight, and then let her watch me hug everybody after we finished fighting. Shake hands and hug after the fight or whatever. And so yeah, she at first she didn't like it at all, they said. But and I guess it's kind of a good thing that somebody else was able to do it, and I wasn't there, because she probably wouldn't have took to it any at all. But yeah, she's gotten kind of used to the idea that Daddy fights now, and it's not quite so heartbreaking for her anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, well, that's good. And then one of the last kind of members of the family I wanted to touch on, because I know, with Britton O'Bannon and everything like that, I know it's kind of like a week-to-week, sometimes day-to-day thing. As you mentioned, one of the last times we were talking there, is she anticipating that she's going to be at this next upcoming fight here? I mean, obviously, like I was saying, it's like sometimes like a week-to-week, you got to undulate with what's going on sort of thing, but is she expected to be there for this one?
We are expecting for her to be here for this fight. I'm going to say this, and it don't matter. I'll probably get in trouble, but I will deal with the consequences. She has, one of the diseases that she has is GERD, which causes her to regurgitate stomach acids. And what that has done is that it has eaten at her top teeth, her front top teeth. And it digesting her teeth is what it was doing. So she has gone today and done the first steps on getting those top teeth. I don't getting something put over them. So the way I understand it, they ground her teeth down very small today, and tomorrow or next week or whenever she goes back, they're going to take and put caps on those teeth to where the caps will not be affected by the stomach acid. But because of her heart disease and all the other diseases and everything she has, it's causing her an extreme amount of pain. She just had it done today. She's inside in an extreme amount of pain, and just hurting, and her body doesn't heal near about so fast as what I guess you would say a quote unquote normal person's body would, because of all of what she has. And so, but yeah, it's we are planning for her to be there, though. We're trying to get past these teeth and see how well it works out, how smoothly it goes and all for her.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear all that's going on. I mean, I feel like with what I see from her posting, she just never seems to let on that anything's going on. Just always seems like she has a positive demeanor, very much like yourself in a sense, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, all the best with that situation, and hopefully it goes as smoothly and efficiently as it possibly can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. See, the both of us, man, we neither one of us like putting the negative out there. Neither one of us like putting the bad out there. The both of us want to keep things in a positive and a light-hearted kind of way with everything. And nobody likes seeing the negative that's going on in all the time. And man, I'm gonna be honest with you. If we wanted to post the bad things that was going on, it'd be just like multiple posts every single day. But that's not what we want to put out there, man. That's not we deal with it, and it's sure. If you want to get down to the definition of the things that we're dealing with, it can sound pretty bad, but it's really not. A lot of times, it's really not as bad as what it sounds like for us, because of the way that we do handle situations, the way that we do handle these things.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great mindset to have, and seems like it's helped get through a lot of different things like that, for sure, man. And yeah, no, always great getting to have you on the show ahead of all these big fights and everything like that. I always appreciate whenever you make time, especially because you have such a busy schedule and everything like that. So is there any kind of parting thought you might have as we're sort of wrapping up, maybe prediction for the fight, something you see transpiring, or even something we didn't touch on? Any kind of parting thought?
Man, I don't have a whole lot on written. One time where I ain't got a whole lot to say. It's going to be fireworks. If you got two big men, you're going to have close to 600 pounds of man in that doggone square circle, throwing hands at one another. And it's always a good time. Ben's track record speaks for itself. Mine speaks for itself. I'm always all about the excitement, always all about, bringing it and putting on a good show. And, I've never had a bare knuckle fight go the distance. Fourth round is the furthest that any of my fights have made it. And Ben's definitely got one shot knockout power. And so we're going to go in there and see what it's all about, and try to make things as exciting as we can for the fans, and try to end things quick. I want to be done with this thing by the second round.
Yeah, I mean, it has all the ingredients for a firefight. I mean, we were talking about how great that Zach Calamus fight was before. I feel like there's something on paper with this fight between both of you guys, if your previous histories are any indicator for what we can expect. And yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show ahead of this BKFC 30 co-main event. And yeah, just you enjoy the rest of your night there, man. And just looking forward to checking out the fight when it goes down there, Bobo.
Most definitely, sir. You have a blessed one, and don't have too much fun out there.
All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be chatting with an individual set to compete at BKFC 30, and it goes down on October the 1st. It's a co-main event heavyweight bout between Bobo O'Bannon and a debuting Ben Rothwell. Happy to be welcoming Ben onto the show for the very first time. How's the day going so far there for you, Ben?
Honestly, September's the best month of the year in Wisconsin, and we don't have many. But right now it's beautiful, a little bit windy, 70 degrees, so enjoying the day.
So like a nice breezy kind of like fall sort of dynamic there?
Yeah. Fall is probably the nicest times of the year here, and I like it when it's windy out, so it works.
Yeah, for sure. And I imagine you're excited with like everything kind of coming together, just being in like close proximity to the fight and stuff like that. And I would think you'd be excited too, because like you signed the bare knuckle contract like a bit earlier in the year. So I would think you'd be stoked to be finally readying to make that debut.
Yeah, it's been a wait. I was announced in April. Thought I was going to fight in the summer, and things kept getting pushed. But here it is. It's finally here, so I get to go out and make it happen October 1st.
Yeah, was there almost like a benefit to it, like in as far as like figuring out the like specific maybe bare knuckle preparations leading into it, or were you just kind of chomping at the bit wanting to make that debut in the summer?
Yeah, I was ready to go, man. I've been fighting. I've been doing obviously MMA for a long time, but I've done kickboxing, boxing, plenty of street fights. I've been fighting my whole life, so this is, basically, instead of having to wrestle and grapple, I just get to box the whole time. So, I've been ready to go. I have almost 30 knockouts in MMA, so it's for me. And, the big thing is, wear hand wraps. Good. I've been wearing hand wraps since 2015, so I feel like I'm at home with this. And I feel like my style fits very well for this. And it's kind of like we're talking, we get people excited, but I'm a guy. I'm actions speak louder than words. So I'm ready October 1st to show them about it. He's going to have to prove myself to the bare knuckle fans. I got the MMA following. I got a lot of people that believe in me, but there's a group of people that don't, and they don't know what I'm about. They kind of feel like intruded when MMA guys come into the bare knuckle, because they feel like it's kind of like their thing. But I'm a fighter. This is a combat sport. You need to remember that, and that's what I'm about. And I see what the fans like to see, and that's everything that I'm about and the way I fight. So I'm happy to introduce myself to them the right way.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because, like you said, you haven't been wearing the hand wraps for several years rather at this point and everything. So I feel like you'd be one of the more like well-equipped, kind of familiarized guys to come over. Like I feel like the wrist and fist areas would be pretty galvanized, and you wouldn't be like quite at the same risk of like breaking your hands as maybe some other people kind of coming over.
I feel like hand breaks can happen to anybody. We're human. If you hit something wrong and hard enough, you're going to hurt yourself. I don't care if you got hand wraps on or not. It's just one of those mental things I see with a lot of guys, like especially with boxers. I guess there's a lot of boxers that have just openly said they don't want to do it because they need their hand wraps. So it is interesting. If there's something you've been doing for a long time and you get used to it, I feel like, it can bother people. Luckily, I've just chose to, for the sake of grappling, I needed my grip, I needed to grab, so I got used to not doing hand wraps because I felt like they were very restrictive for me. And I've just been known to have, maybe harder than the normal hands. I chalk it up more to, I just try to be more precise. Because if I punch a wall, I'm sure I'll hurt my hand. I'm human.
Yeah.
But being precise, I think, is a big deal. And I think in this, it's more so. And I have a lot of power, but it doesn't even take much to hurt people. And just landing my shots in the right spots, it's gonna have a big impact on this.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier about how many knockouts you've accrued in your career. I always felt like the grappling was a big part of your game as well, so I would think you'd be excited about the, clinch positioning kind of maneuvering BKFC allows for.
Well, it also allows, better than boxing because it allows a single arm clinch and close fighting. So these are things that work really well for me. I think my style is very well equipped for this. And for just I think there's a lot of good matchups too.
Yeah, I think there's a wealth of options and potential in the heavyweight category, but in doing my research on you, I was reading a Jack Slack piece that he put together before your Josh Barnett fight, and he was kind of talking about like your, stand-up striking style, specifically with the hands, like the, hands up, palm out, kind of like almost creating the windows, like a George Foreman kind of approach, almost like parrying away certain strikes. Is that like a fair characterization of kind of how you go about navigating the boxing portion of the game, and have you been just like further kind of drilling that more so in this specific camp?
So with bare knuckles, hands come out a little bit faster, so I feel more importantly I've been known as just bat on the bad end to kind of stand still or be a target, and that's when I'm probably having anxiety or not in my realm. I think I've shown lots of success when you see me moving my head, and people call it like my crazy movements and stuff like that. But that's me really being natural, and allowing myself to get into that is going to be very successful for this. I don't see any of the heavyweights moving the way I can move, the way I know. Kind of capable of bringing a very unorthodox style. I switch my feet frequently. I'm very comfortable fighting southpaw and orthodox now. So I think those characteristics are really going to shake things up, and confusion is a big part of my game, making guys really they don't know where my strikes are coming from, and I've had a lot of success with that.
Yeah, and you were talking about how many, great matchups that there are the potential for you to be taking part in during this BKFC tenure. I mean, certainly one of the bigger opponents that I was thinking when you debuted with the promotion was Bobo Oban, and then just, what were your thoughts when that bout offer kind of came your way? I would think that you're a guy who kind of studies the field, and you were probably aware of what he had done previous.
Yeah, as soon as he called me out, I said, bam, there's the one. I like it when a guy wants to try to make his name off of me and he calls me out, so I can make it a little bit personal. I'm cordial with everybody. I like most of these guys are all pretty good guys. And he's no exception. He's got outside of fighting, everybody likes him. But when we're inside, it's not just business for me. It's a fight. Like, you're challenging me, you're trying to best me. So I take it a little bit personal, and I have to show this man that I'm something he's never seen before. And I just believe that. I just believe wholeheartedly, like, he's not prepared for what I'm going to show him.
What do you think he really brings to the table well, though? Like, I mean, obviously he has, like, the previous kind of experience there, and he's a bit of gloved boxing experience as well. Has also, like, worked in, like, training camps, like, with Deontay Wilder and guys previous. Like, what do you see him, like, I guess, doing well? Like, what are some of his bigger tools, you would say?
Every heavyweight brings in the size. Like, we're big, we're heavyweights, so we have that game service that we're heavy and can land a shot. So guys have that. He's kind of like fights kind of like a bully, where he likes to go forward, makes for exciting fights. But he's gonna run into a guy that a lot of guys he's been fighting. He's been bigger than him. Now he's gonna fight a guy that's bigger than him. So I'm not sure. I don't see a guy that moves a lot. Like, he's not like a fast head movement guy. He's I don't say brawler, but he's kind of straightforward and he does his thing. And, and he believes he has heart. He's going to do everything he can to, if he gets knocked down, he's going to get back up.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to find my shots and I have to shut him down. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because, like you said, this was a situation where you kind of noticed Bobo indicating interest, and you're like, all right, yeah, let's go. But also in, like, talking about the Greg Hardy kind of fight, like, just previously discussing how you think it's, like, an inevitable sort of thing. Like, it seems like you're kind of going along with, like, fan sentiment and kind of like what the media is asking about. So it seems like you kind of like to go that route too, just sort of seeing like what the fan sentiment is as well, even beyond like individual matchups you might be eyeballing.
Yeah, there's several fights that I'm interested in. Obviously, Adams and Belcher are probably going to fight, but you know, they're two of the top guys right now, having a lot of success. And then obviously Frank Tate and his coach have been talking quite a bit. You know, mostly his coach, so that's fine. You know, you want your coach to talk for you. I'm still going to take it personal. You know, I have no problem fighting him. And Keckler seems like a super stand-up guy, but he's obviously underneath that top 5. So those are all great fights, but none of that means anything until I show what I can do for sure against Bobo. Like that, this is a fight that matters. Really, kind of got to show where I'm at. It's to show something to the fans, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like pretty much anyone in that like top 5 kind of territory there. But you mentioned Arnold Adams in there, and I saw the face-off pick with you and Arnold at that BKFC 26 event, I believe it was. What was going on there? What was that moment like? Like, what's the, I guess, dynamic with Arnold Adams there? It seemed like maybe kind of cordial, but in a sense, like both of you guys are maybe thinking you're on a trajectory to fight each other down the line, possibly.
Yeah, it was completely cordial. It was respect, like he's a champ. I just felt it was an opportunity where it was like, hey, man, you want to take a face-off together? And I just said, I just figured it was a good picture to take to kind of get everybody interested, kind of size each other up. And, you know, and I think it did just that. Like, you're bringing it up. So that's what it was, kind of throw that out there. And for me, this is like, hey, if he's going to keep the belt, then this fight's going to happen. That's what I'm saying.
And I mentioned that BKFC 26 show. I saw the pics where you were saying it was like the first live bare knuckle kind of experience for you, and it seemed like you really enjoyed it. What were the overall thoughts on that night, just kind of the spectator positioning you were in?
Getting people to the live events is definitely going to help build the brand. I think when people see it live, you can just hear the way the punches hit and the nonstop action. It's a super fan-friendly sport, you know, and that's, if you're a combat sports fan, then that's why this is blowing up so fast, because more and more people are getting on board and they're going to the events and they're seeing like this is what people want to see. You know, I think there's a huge fan base for MMA and people love grappling. There's a group of people that like it, but overall, the majority of people love a knockout. And as with bare knuckle, like, we're just in there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not many of the fights go to decisions, and that's the kind of stuff that people want to see in combat sports. They understand it, and that's what this just gives. It gives right to it. There's no downtime on the ground. The rounds are short, so we get after it fast, and it creates a very action-oriented situation. You know, it's just that's why it's blowing up so fast.
Yeah, it's a high-octane sport for sure, but like a bit earlier to that point, you were talking about how like the punches in bare knuckle can come faster and certain things like that. So obviously aware that this is like, you know, a different combat sport in certain regards. So like to that point, have you curated your camp here a bit differently at all, maybe as compared to like the, you know, wealth of experience from MMA? Like how does I guess bare knuckle camp maybe look as compared to an MMA camp for you?
So I've had, you know, in the UFC, I fought a 25-minute fight that translates to almost 29 minutes with 1 minute rest of just nonstop fighting. And the longest one of these fights will go is 14 minutes with 4 rests. So in all, it doesn't even equate to a 3-round fight. You know, and I've had many 3-round fights, 15 minutes fighting, 2-minute rest. That's 17 minutes. So it's just my ability to go and getting them rest. You know, I'm cheap for this. Like, it's like all these years prior, I mean, it's like longer 5-minute rounds, and everything's been training towards that. And this is 2-minute rounds with the same amount of rest. So we can really go, we can really get after it, and feel good about can go all 5 rounds that way. But I don't think in any of my fights I'm going to need 5 rounds.
And I'm excited about it too because I feel like you're going to really have quite the entrance for sure. I feel like you're going to be able to really show aspects of the, character and stuff like that. Like I love that like post-fight promo you had after you beat Mitrione and stuff like that. Are we going to be seeing a little bit more of that in the BKFC run?
That's October 1st, my man.
Yeah, no, I'm just like wondering if we're going to be seeing that sort of dynamic with it.
That's why you got to watch October 1st to find out.
But I guess just speaking to that, like, how excited are you? Because it seemed like,
we're not all cookie cutter, dressed up to be the same thing. Like, we get to be ourselves now. And that was something I was enjoying I had just a brief period of it. And it was obviously taken away by sponsorship deal that just labeled us all the same. And now I get to get back to, get to be whoever we want to be. And that's exciting, 100%. It gets me to be more of me, and I'm always going to fight better that way.
Yeah, I was listening to some interviews where you were kind of likening it to like pro wrestling, but it's like a real thing you're going out to do. Like it's like, oh, this isn't like a built-in kind of scripted thing. Like this is me expressing who I am. And I was seeing an interview with MMA Junkie Radio, and it seemed like you were shouting out Sting and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, he's still out there performing and whatnot. Do you follow pro wrestling at all, or was that just something you noticed in like a cursory kind of way on social media, maybe?
I watched wrestling as a kid. I had my, during the reign of Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage, and I had my time watching with my grandma, and wrestling was awesome. But when I got into MMA and I was in high school and I started, I kind of just everything. I stopped watching all sports, honestly. Football is like crazy here. I don't watch anything. I'm not a Packer fan. I just don't watch. I could barely watch fights. There's so many fights on now, and I could barely keep with fighting. Just really, really focused on my craft. But wrestling has always been. I've always been intrigued. I always enjoyed the characters, and even through the years, I'd watch here and there when I could. And my therapist is one of the best in the world. He's amazing. Loves wrestling. So every week I'm with him, he gives me the updates of what matches, and who's doing what, and it's pretty incredible. And the athletes, they are incredible athletes. There is no way around it. And I just look at somebody like the Undertaker and how impressive. I was a little boy, and that guy was already in a Nintendo wrestling video game. I remember playing him as a kid. And here he just retired just a little bit ago. It's just it's unreal. And such a big man, and to do the athletic things that those guys do, yeah, they're incredible. And I always get told, you should go into wrestling, you should get into wrestling. I'm like, I'd have to do some training. It's not everything, so you just do it. Like these guys are trained at a specific craft. They're masters of what they do. It's like his own martial art, and they've become very good at what they do. But I could be a character. I could definitely do something like that. But I'd like to believe I'm an athlete and I could learn anything. But I definitely wouldn't disrespect them. Be like, oh yeah, I could just do it. No, I would have to train, and we'd have to see if I could. But I definitely think they're great, man. Entertainers. They make people happy, or mad, whatever the case is. They get emotions, and they entertain millions of people around the world. So salute.
Yeah, it's a cool thing to see. It's sort of curious how inspiration kind of works. Obviously this is taking it out of the pro wrestling kind of context, but just seeing what you do with Rothwell MMA and stuff like that. I saw the picture you had there with Cody the Code Breaker and stuff like that, and you were like, oh yeah, I've never seen a more dedicated mixed martial arts training pursuit than with this guy in 20 plus years. So it's curious. It's you're inspiring this younger lad, but also in a way he's sort of inspiring you as you keep going.
Yeah, Cody Lynn is that's Rothwell MMA. I've always said I had to put my name on the gym, but the gym was just an entity of all of us, and Cody represents that. He started with us when he was very young, 12 years old, and it's over a decade with us, and he's on a roll right now. He's got a big fight 3 weeks after mine. And yeah, I believe he is one of the major organizations, whether it's UFC or not. He's on his way. The only thing that would hold him back from UFC is he's at 125 in his weight class, and we know like that's a harder weight class for the UFC. You know if it stays around or not. But wherever he goes, I believe he's going to be a world champion. So I definitely have inspiration around me in a lot of different places.
Yeah, just a cool thing to see. I would imagine that makes you feel a certain way, like just people looking up to you and maybe keeps you like to a certain standard. I mean, I think you would want to keep yourself to that standard anyway, but maybe further compounding that, just like knowing you're being looked up to by certain people in a certain way.
Yeah, to see the gym give back. We're raising another generation of kids to learn how to defend themselves, whether they want to be fighters or not. That's besides the point. Learn how to defend yourself, to stick your stick up against a bully, or to teach a child that's big and strong not to be a bully. You know, these are very important things for the generation, and just for us to be able to help adults, whether it's help them lose weight, make them feel confident, make some friends, all good things the gym has done for a community. And yeah, I can only be blessed and thankful to, have that established here and, still here, still going strong. Yeah, I said over 10 years.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey to follow along with in a lot of regards. And I'm sure there's dozens of other questions I could ask you, but I don't want to pester you all day. I'm sure you got a lot of other things on your plate there, man. So to that point, is there anything you might want to add as a parting thought as we're wrapping up here?
Just thanks for the time. Shout out to Defense Soap for always keeping my gym clean. They're doing a great job. Again, check them out. HKA is helping me get my shorts done and helping me find shoes for this because that's a whole new thing, wearing shoes. And First Round Management. So just a shout out to those guys, all great people around me helping me out. It's my team. And that's it, man. Thank you. And the fans. And, of course, the Canadian fans especially. They've really been awesome to fight for because, my whole journey of my career, they're so into combat sports and just really a huge driving force, I think, to blowing up combat sports. Just watching it over the last, I've been doing this for almost 22 years, and just to watch this entire thing blow up in my lifetime is pretty awesome. So, huge thank you to the Canadian fans.
Oh, thanks. That's a cool shout out there, man. Yeah, I mean, you've had some good moments there. Like, you got that Gilbert Ivel victory in Vancouver, BC. So, yeah, it seems like, Canada's been good to you in a certain sense, or at least you've had some good moments.
Yeah, that was fun. A really good one.
But yeah, it's a great story, and there's another chapter unfurling October 1st. And yeah, it's going to be super exciting to see this bare knuckle debut at BKFC 30 against Bobo O'Bannon. And I really appreciate the time and for coming on the show, Ben. A cool interview, no doubt, and just hoping you enjoy the rest of your day. And I'm looking forward to checking out the fight when it goes down there.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.